First Class Fatherhood. That is where Alec Lace comes in with his popular podcast.
And one of the most interesting was on a podcast.
Alec Lace interviews high-profile fathers from actors to NFL players with a vision to change the narrative of fatherhood and family life.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood, a family-made media podcast, and I am pumped up. I got a fellow Jersey guy joining me on the podcast today. Ralph Pittman is going to be my guest. Ralph comes from the business world. He's a Rutgers University graduate where he played football. He helps Fortune 500 companies as it relates to technology. He's married to Drew Sidora, the American celebrity and star of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, one of the big topics between the couple is whether or not Ralph is going to adopt Drew's son from a previous relationship. You guys know how much I stress on this podcast about the fatherless crisis. We need more dads, more father figures in these young kids' lives. I love Ralph Pittman's answer here. We're going to dive into it pretty deeply. Love what he's about. Get down there, smack the subscribe button, tap the like, and let's jump into it right now with Ralph Pittman on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Ralph Pittman. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me also.
All right, well, let's start it like this here. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
I have 3 kids, starting with the oldest, Josiah, little boy, Makai, he's 6. And then Anaya, she's 4. So
Very
11,
cool.
So 11, 6, and 4.
Awesome. You guys all done? You go for any more?
No. We're complete. I don't think I have the bandwidth to have anymore. But sometimes, I'll get that little itch like, oh, man, that little kid looks amazing. Or it'll be great to have another little girl running around here. But I think we're done. I had the vasectomy. It's over.
All right. Well, that's the end of that. Yeah, we have 4 kids ourselves. We had 3 boys, then got the girl, so we called it a day.
There you go. That's completeness right there. That's all you need.
Yep. All right. If you could, Ralph, please just take a minute to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Oh, fantastic. So originally native of New Brunswick, New Jersey, went to Rutgers University, graduated a degree in business economics. Now I've been in the technology world for quite some time, starting off in sales. And so more of a hybrid. I work with Fortune 100 companies. So all the extremely big organizations, helping them direct their path as well as it relates to technology, things of the future, trends, things that they need to go and be doing in order to stay competitive in this day and age.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually talking to you from New Jersey today here. So it's nice to connect to another Jersey guy. So and then take me back then, Ralph, to the beginning of your fatherhood journey. About how old were you then when you first became a dad, and how did that experience change your perspective on life?
Interesting enough, I was 32 years old. And so ended up with my journey. I ended up meeting my wife, and she had a son, a 3-year-old. And so I remember I was speaking with one of my friends, as you start to get a little older as a man, the chances of probably finding somebody that may have a kid, it starts to become a little slim. So the possibilities are a little different. And so when I met my wife, she had a 3-year-old son, and we started dating, hit it off. And literally that was kind of the beginning of my fatherhood journey, is actually with a 3-year-old son. My wife and I ended up dating really fast. I had a chance to meet him. His name was Josiah, of course. And things just progressed along, and here we are.
Yeah, and I know, Ralph, that one of the things obviously the media has keyed in on with you and your wife, Drew, is the fact of whether or not you were going to adopt him as your own. And that seemed to become a big focus of the attention. One thing I focus on here is the fatherless crisis that we have going on in our country, where so many kids are growing up without a father or a father figure in their life. And your son is blessed to have both a father who wants to be involved and a father figure like yourself to take on the role of stepdad. So where do you guys sit as far as all that is concerned, and what kind of advice do you have for any other dads out there that may be going through a similar situation?
So great point also. I think what it is, being a father first and foremost is the most amazing thing you can ever have. I feel like it's the greatest gift. And his biological father was incarcerated for some time. And so he didn't have an opportunity to really be able to build that bond with him. And so what ended up happening with us is, as my wife, she wants me to adopt him. And I just can't make it in my heart to go and take that right away from another person, another man that wants the ability to be a father. And I always say this, there's a million things I can teach my son, which I'm doing, and I'm there every single day, 365. But there are certain things that I cannot teach him as a man to grow up, and also, like, for instance, why he acts the way that he does. Things about how he grew up, things about his father and his biological family. I can't share those things with them. And so I want the idea and the ability for his biological father to be able to play his part, to be able to fill in the gap, and we create more of a community and a village. I'm just an extension. My job, just like a football coach that'll come in, at the end of the day, I'm here to rear him, provide and make sure that he grows into the best young individual he possibly can. And he can do that for his kids when he gets older. So
Yeah, it's so important, Ralph, especially for young boys to have that positive fatherhood figure, father role model, because we've seen so many disasters turn out in our society from kids, especially young men that don't have that guidance. So it's awesome that you're there to be able to, and speak a little bit more about that if you could. What are some of the top values that you're hoping to instill in all your kids growing up?
Oh, great question. Great question. First and foremost, discipline. I feel like that's something that you just can't take for granted ever, is just understanding and having balance. I think even for me as a father, I'm trying to be a little more open, because I believe that what ends up happening is a lot of the times you take the principles and the things that you grew up with and you try to push it down on your kid. And sometimes those characteristics don't necessarily work today. They don't translate. And so also I want them to have freedom, to be able to explore different things, because the world is changing, business is changing, the way that we work is evolving. And so, having them be a little more open to being on YouTube or, behind a camera, which kind of when we were young, you couldn't play video games all day. That would be something that you'll get your hands slapped over, or you would be put on timeout. Having the kids stay in the house. And, this was another thing. So you're from New Jersey. One of the things that, that we used to get kicked out when we were kids, and you had to go, we were forced to play outside until the streetlights came on. Nowadays, the kids are in the house a lot more, but really truly just embracing and making sure that they can have individuality, understanding exactly how to treat and respect other people, being a child that actually understands not only where they came from, but also how to really treat others and how to embrace things that we probably we weren't able to embrace, making sure that they have culture, can explore the world and know that the world is a lot bigger than us. And so those are some of the things that I am teaching them.
Yeah, very well said, Ralph. And you're right. I think we're all kind of struggling with that, as far as what a different dynamic of the way we grew up as opposed to how our kids are doing it now. And we're all battling with that technology and screen time. And it's even getting harder for me to try to tell them not to do it when I find myself on the screen way more than I should be. So I'm not living by that example as best as I could. And then on that, one of the things that's been drastically different is the discipline portion of it as well. What type of disciplinarian are you as a dad? And is that different than the discipline style you grew up with?
So it's interesting. So going back to kind of the blended situation and being a stepfather also, I feel like I have to wear multiple hats. And I would say my journey even into fatherhood has been completely different and challenging, from having a biological path versus being a stepfather. And I don't know, are you a stepfather by chance?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So this is something that, that may resonate with you. So I grew up as a stepchild. And so my father actually was married 4 different times. So I had 4 stepmothers, technically, right? And going through that particular journey was a little different. And so I didn't know exactly how to come in and be a stepfather. And so the traditional path is, hey, this is our child. We share them 50-50. We both share the responsibilities. I have a say-so in how they are reared, how they parent, the discipline, what time is bedtime. I have a say-so in all of that. When you have a stepchild, the reason I'm saying it's a little different, you don't have those rights. You're coming in pretty much on a clean slate where you pretty much have zero ownership of that child, and you have to build your way up. But it probably will never be at 50% because it's a lot of things that was already in place. So when it comes to discipline, my oldest child, I didn't have as much of a say-so on bedtime because it was already established before I got there. It was a lot of other things. And so now as we've grown and evolved, there are certain things that I actually do have more of a say-so on, but it was a process for me to actually get there. So when it comes down to it, I want to make sure that the kids are doing things with responsibilities, taking out the trash when they're supposed to, making sure they're doing their chores, making sure that they understand financial literacy, and how to save money and not try to just spend it all or on Robux for that matter, which is something that's completely different, and so those are some of the different nuances that we're instilling inside of the kids, just understanding also how to get outside and do some of the things that you should probably know how to do just, as a man and as a little girl. For instance, we don't cut our own grass, but I want to make sure that you know how to do it. So I'll get them out there with the blower and different things just to make sure that they're balanced and they have some exposure to doing some physical labor jobs, as well as being able to do things on a computer and be able to function in that capacity. And so, I think it just varies depending on age. My little girl, she's responsible for taking the clothes and taking them to the washing machine and things of that nature. And we reward them. So we have a reward system in place to make sure that they understand this is how the world works. You do something, the world will reward you for it. But I also want to make sure that you don't expect it from anyone, because sometimes you can actually do something out of the generosity of your heart without, and have a little gratitude with it. So that's some of the things I'm teaching them.
Yeah, those are all things that we're going through here in our household as well, Ralph. And you're right. And a part of that, like when we grew up, of being, like you said, outside till the street lights came on, was that we played a lot of ball in the street, a lot of football, a lot of
Right.
on the grass, but outside. And we picked all the teams. There was no refs, no coaches, no parents that were hovering over
Right.
us, and it seemed like we had the freedom to develop those skill sets that kind of made you more self-sufficient. I think we kind of rob our kids in this generation of being able to figure those things out on their own and develop those skills naturally, as opposed to us kind of forcing them in a way on them.
You're right. You're 100% right. But I'm trying to also make sure, because one thing that I feel like we did a better job of is building community. We had better friendships. We went through things together because you had your whole crew of people that you went and played with. Now everyone has digital friends. We're just kind of preparing everybody for the metaverse. So you don't necessarily have to see people. You can actually just do your own thing, see everybody on Roblox or be in a metaverse and have a digital relationship opposed to a physical one. So, but that's something I have to also be open with and embrace as well, that things are changing, relationships are changing, how people interact are changing. So I'm growing just as I'm instilling things in my kids. I have to also instill new things in the way that they're developing as well, to make sure that I can help them grow in the digital age that we're currently in.
Yeah, I'm definitely learning as they go along too. And you're right. There's pluses and minuses here too, because of this technology, I've been able to speak to dads like yourself, dads from all over the world, without ever having met these people. And it's
Right.
just mind blowing what we can accomplish just from this screen. And it could also be used, unfortunately, just as bad as it can be for good. So it's trying to keep a balance on all that stuff. And speaking of being on the screen, the Real Housewives of Atlanta has been something that's been big in your family there. How has that kind of affected, you guys, maybe your relationship? Has it changed you at all as a husband and wife? Has it changed you at all as parents? What has been like your personal response from the show?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind, I should say. It's going into it, you have so much exposure to things. For instance, and you can have an argument with someone, with your significant other, and it would just be between those four walls. No one else would have any exposure to it. Now, all of a sudden, we're on national television. So if we have an argument, it's being shared with the whole world, where everyone can go and have input on your relationship. And they don't know all the other stories or other things of how your relationship truly works, because they only see one part of it. And so it puts a magnifying glass on things. And so having the public's perception sometimes can get a little challenging. So you have to always kind of get to a place where you have balance. And that's one thing that Drew and I are doing. Getting to a place where we have balance and understanding, okay, this is who you really are, not what people are saying or what you see of yourself on television, but also at the same time having accountability to the growth and the evolution that you're having. And because some of these things actually can be a little true. And so it takes some soul searching to understand that. So I believe that your relationship works and moves extremely fast. Problems that probably may exist, it's going to be exposed because you got so many things you're trying to balance. And then the house, trying to make sure everyone is happy, the kids are still thriving, and it doesn't become so much of a distraction because you're so focused on television and they're shooting in your house that you lose sight on your kids and lose that balance that you have with them. So they can see the person on television, and also they can see the person you are as an actual parent. So it's a lot. It's a lot, but we're working towards it to make sure that the thing is we're doing it and executing it effectively.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I can't even imagine that. I know the way our operation runs here. I can't imagine adding that kind of dynamic into it. I would imagine it's got to be somewhat taking a lot to get used to. So, and then what about, just like you, I had my girl at the end here. She was my first girl. What has it been like for you now to be a girl dad, to have a girl? What's that experience been like for you?
Oh, my daughter, I can't ever say this, but man, that's my heart. She gets. She has me wrapped around her finger, and it's really not much I can really do about it. She's the one that I know that when I come into the house, she's going to give me the biggest hug. She's going to be underneath me any moment she possibly can. She's in the bed watching TV with me, and she's like my little mini me. She's doing gymnastics and doing flips, and so I see so much of myself in her, but I also see her evolving into a little lady at the same time. So where she has a great way of being able to get everything she wants from me, and as well as her mom. She puts her high heels on and does these different things. So it's absolutely amazing having a daughter. And probably I would say something that was probably a little surreal to actually experience. Now that I have her here, man, I can't even picture life without her.
Yeah, our daughter runs the show over here as well, man. It's amazing what dynamic she brought to the family. So just like you, I couldn't imagine our lives without her.
Yeah.
And what kind of family traditions do you guys have, Ralph? Do you have any certain family traditions that you guys either carrying over from your own families or any new ones that you started?
So my wife, I'm going to talk about my wife for a second. She does a lot of different things. She has a very big family, and they're extremely family oriented. Actually, right now, you may hear some background noise because I feel like I have a million people downstairs. And so for her mom's birthday, I believe she's 78, but they do a really big celebration for her where everyone comes together. They'll do different things where it's a bunch of different games that we play and just have a really great time and just, being able to have family and experience things in different ways. And for us also, family doesn't mean just blood. It's also an extension of that because, friends become family to people where you have these real genuine relationships. We do a big Christmas typically every year. And I think we celebrate the majority of the original ones. And Thanksgiving, we'll go down to my grandmother's house, and that's where we'll do it. So we kind of break it up which family we're going to go to spend time just to make sure that we can actually hit everyone. And I think also because everyone is so spread out. I'm from New Jersey originally. Now we live in Atlanta. She's from Chicago. So it's always all of these different movements, just trying to get around just to see everyone and just enjoy family.
Wow. You guys elf on the shelf people or no?
Not so much. I think we did it 1 year. We did it 1 year where we did the elf on the shelf. And it was a lot of fun. Matter of fact, just because you spoke of it, I'm going to make sure we implement it this year also. Definitely got to throw it in there.
Yeah, we got one that still looks for it every morning. And now the other guys are involved in helping to position it and do all that stuff. So that is whoever came up with that really scooped up on a lot of profit because it seems like everyone kind of got drew into that whole thing. So yeah, pretty cool. What's next for you here, Ralph? You guys got it? You have any kind of plans? Anything you're working on right now? What's next for you in the future here?
You got it. So as we're talking about fatherhood, actually, I'm in the process of writing a book called The Step in Parenting, and which is also being featured on the show Real Housewives of Atlanta. And just going through the journey of being able to, I would say, journey through being a step parent, and all of the different nuances that actually come into it. Like I mentioned, no one prepares you to be not only just a father, but a stepfather, And so this book also will be able to help people, if you're a woman or a man walking into a situation, to really be able to understand some of the best practice that they can do in order to make sure that they're positioned for success.
And I'll tell you, Ralph, it is so needed right now because there are so many kids out there that need to have, and there's so many blended families now in our country where that type of experience is definitely where people need to look to try to figure this out. As you said, there's no pamphlet handed to you on this stuff. So to have somebody that's been there, done that, definitely beneficial right now. So props to you for doing that.
I appreciate
And the last thing I want to hit you with here, Ralph, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
So first and foremost, get ready because you're going to experience something that you've never experienced before. Have patience, especially have patience with your significant other, because more than likely they may be going through postpartum. You don't know how they're really truly going because their hormones are all over the place. And you can't blame the woman. You got to blame the baby. That's who it is. And you can't be mad at the baby because really it's the blessing that you've been waiting for. And so, and as you're going through that process, embrace those moments because children grow up extremely, extremely fast. And so be there, be a part of the whole entire process so you get an opportunity to really understand and embrace the different stages that children go through. And and then just work on just making sure that you become the best dad in the world, and that right there is something that you define. Get around some people that you can role model, ask questions to when you may not understand something. And then there's going to be a lot of things you just don't know. So have grace with yourself. Don't think that you're messed up because every father does, so, and just go with the flow. Everything will be okay. And, everything will be great. So then just.
Awesome. Listen, I love the message. It's been an honor for me. I got to say, Ralph Pittman, you're a first-class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have been listening to First Class Fatherhood. First Class Fatherhood is a family-made media podcast. Please visit www.firstclassfatherhood.com or www.familymade.com to find out more details. You can order First Class Fatherhood advice and wisdom from high-profile dads on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Proverbs 22:6 tells us, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will never depart from it. God bless, and I'll catch you next time.